Okay, so you know how in these past tutorials I made two tutorials, and first one was meant to be about durability. Second one was what I thought to be the meta. It is not the meta. I haven't uploaded in these past few months because I've been gathering data on what is in fact the best way to run a ship. So this right here, all heavy armor, just missile launchers, that's old. We don't like that anymore, okay? We don't like this anymore. This is not the meta. It's too expensive for what a cheaper ship can do. It's not reliable. It's very, very slow, not just with thrusters, but it's so heavy that the jump drives won't get it anywhere. But also, it just isn't protected. And with the drone update coming out soon, it has no way of defending itself. It doesn't have any Gatling turret. It doesn't have any Gatling turrets. So here are ways to improve your fleet. So number one, it's to build something like this, where you build mostly out of light armor. And I'll get to why these are all artillery in a moment. Build mostly out of light armor. However, in some places where you think that you're going to need it most, like right here, this is like a plate of heavy armor, because this likes to broadside. So like this is all a plate of heavy armor here, because through this area is the... Hang on, why is my spectator being like this? I don't know why it's being slow, but I'll just slow it down, I guess. In here is the reactor room. So, like, we need heavy armor. So I've put heavy armor on all sides of it. I don't know why my spectator is being weird. You'll get a better view later. So I've put heavy armor all around the reactor room, because what happens is with this ship is, a lot of people set their weapons to target power. They'll hit dead center on the ship and knock out the reactor room. So what I've done, that's another thing, always keep optimizing, keep improving your designs. If you have a major design flaw like that, like I put an extra large reactor in the back here, and that solved just about all my problems. Because, so more data. The reason why I'm saying you should build out of light armor is just because it is a lot easier to work with, because okay, let's look at this. Heavy armor versus light armor comparison. Heavy armor is a lot more durable. However, light armor is 25 steel plates. Heavy armor is 6 to 7 times more expensive. So if you build a ship out of heavy armor, that is 6 to 7 times more expensive than whatever you're going to make out of light armor. So for the price of one of these, you could build like 7 of these maybe. And this one can fly in atmosphere, that one can't. So you can get a lot more you can get a lot more versatility out of your ships if you try and take it easy on the heavy armor. Another thing, use heavy armor when you can, but also try and have... Oh yeah, another thing, railguns, in the last video I said they weren't great. They're very good at punching through certain ships. Like this ship, for example, the only thing it's affected by would be a railgun, because in one of the previous tutorials I did, artillery would shoot, it would punch through 2 blocks, and then stop. Now, this isn't a great example, because I've done some... Because this is a different spot than last time, but I'm pretty sure I shot like here, and it just didn't go through. That's 3 blocks, and there's still armor there. So, another thing, artillery, weapon diversity is not the way to go, because a lot of people still do use heavy armor ships, and assault cannons just bounce right off like your Sherman and Fury firing at a Tiger. And if you don't know what that is, go watch Fury, because I don't have the brain power to explain it to you right now, because I'm doing a Space Engineers tutorial. So what you want to do is you want to just have as much artillery as you think is necessary, and then have your ship be maneuverable enough, because the turret traverse is really bad on these, so have it be maneuverable enough that you can turn the ship fast enough to compensate for the lack of turret traverse. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is that turrets in the rear tend to get shot off last when you're moving quickly. And I'll get to moving quickly in a moment, but artillery in the back is great simply because it is one of the last things to get shut off. Honestly, it all comes down to what server you're gonna be on, and that'll dictate how many artillery turrets you're gonna get, because like this was just made on my own time, and of course when you're not building for a server's specific limits, then you can just do whatever the heck you want and have the most ridiculously overpowered ship in the game. But I've tried to make this server friendly, and it's super easy to switch a couple artillery turrets out for assault cannons just for a little bit more firepower if the limits say that I can't have this many artillery turrets. So another thing you want to keep in mind with the drones coming soon, as in the upcoming update, you're gonna want good Gatling turret coverage, because if people want to get close, they gotta get up to you. That's not the only thing. So the second thing that you want to worry about is assault cannon drones, because assault cannons have a range of 1.4 kilometers, and these drones can carry them. So you want to have a hangar of at least some size so you can fit like a small fighter in here. And yeah, I know I've said that fighters aren't the meta, they really aren't, but sometimes you just need that little fighter to go out and kill drones while you're busy doing the heavy hitters of an enemy fleet. So that's why I built this. This is the Corsair. It's a prototype fighter that I've been working on for a while. Basically, it has the option to absolutely shred drones or go on a capital ship strafing run itself. It's based around the World War II Corsair, so it has the folding wings for easy storage. So it also has decoys for those capital ship strafing runs that I was talking about. So if you're worried about having floppy wings, what you can do is you can have a double hinge set up here, and then it's kind of a glitch, but you can put merge blocks here, so you can have the subgrids merge together with... You can have the subgrid merge with the actual grid while they're in fixed position. Of course, while the wings are folded up, they can clang out, so it's very important that you be very careful to launch this when you're in a combat situation. When you launch this thing, you're going to want to fold out the wings, but also you don't want this thing clanging out inside your ship in the middle of a fight. So you got to launch it. You got to launch it before you start fighting, or just jettison it out the hangar if you don't have anyone to fly it. So yeah, the wings fold up, and it can comfortably fit in one of these tiny hangars. And I wasn't specifically going for this small of a hangar, but it definitely helps. So yeah, you can fit a fighter of reasonable size in this hangar bay. And maybe I'll do a tutorial on fighters some other time. But yeah, it's very important to have railguns on your ships, because that's like the heaviest hitting thing that you can get. And of course it takes a while to reload, but that's a good thing, especially for broadsiders, because you don't want to be constantly switching between forward firing and side firing. You want to have a good amount of side firing, and then just rotate fire railguns once right away from the recharge. Okay, so let's go through the interior real quick, and I'll get to why you saw stairs and ladders on the other side. So, yeah, this is the reactor room, so I've coated the exterior in heavy armor, and you've got access to hydrogen thrusters here. So it's not perfect, but I have specifically put the heavy armor, as I've done a lot of testing, I've put the heavy armor in places where the ship tends to get hit a lot, so that the ship can last longer. Also another thing, you want to make sure that you have enough ammo. So do the math in your head for your ship before you do anything. Calculate the ammo, because like I've done the math. It's 60 to fire every single barrel, as in every cannon barrel, because artillery turrets are double barreled. It is 66 rounds per firing of every single turret on the ship. meaning that if I want to fire 10 times, I need 660 rounds. So that means that I need to fire 100 times. I would need like close to 10,000 rounds. Like, that's crazy. So these 2 large cargo containers should be enough, but you want to bear in mind that blast door blocks they immensely reduce the explosion of ammo, like containers filled with ammo. And that's not a great example because I can't really see it, but like I've surrounded these with blast door blocks so that this is very contained. But I've also, on top of that, I put heavy armor outside and around these blocks so that it's very hard to pen the ammo rack with regular artillery. You'd have to hit it with a railgun. So I've made it impervious to almost every type of thing. We got some extra hydrogen here. We got a very minimalist CIC that I could probably improve at some later date, but yeah. Survival kit. It's always good at a respawn point on your ship. Might add more in the future, but I doubt it. Here's just a bridge for decoration. Looks nice. Fun fact, you can actually run a fight from here, and since this ship's meant to be moving a lot, this bridge rarely gets destroyed. Like, I'm pretty sure it'll get hit occasionally through the ceiling with a railgun, and it'll just go through, but it's usually moving so fast that you can run a whole fight from this bridge, and you'll do fine. Okay. So one more thing on the interior, and then we'll move on to the next thing. These are something you want to consider on your ships, because welding systems can cause a lot of lag. So, like, auto repair systems can cause a lot of lag. So why use an auto repair system when you can have your faction members, if you have any, running through your ship like a little welder gremlin and repairing damaged components? So the rear part never takes any real damage, but the way I've done it is I've labeled the conveyor systems so that you can tell what's what. So like blue is like fuel related. So like if it's blue, that means that like it helps like with thrusters and like the mobility of the ship. Red would mean that it is like an ammo conveyor, so it's used to move ammo throughout the ship. Like right here, this is all ammo, and purple means that it's for both. I've got seats here so that the people welding can refill their energy, because welding like this in large quantities can really mess with you, or can just drain your power super fast. So you gotta be careful of that, and also you want to be able to have them sit down quickly before you jump, so you don't end up leaving them behind. Another thing that you want to do: artillery turrets get shot off a lot in combat. If you have one of these guys, I've made this ship so that you can access the artillery turrets from inside, so you don't have to go out with a jetpack, get thrown around a bunch to repair a couple turrets, and then die because you got hit by it. You just stay inside the ship and weld this up. And it's as simple as that. It is a lot more efficient. It's a lot easier to repair this thing after a fight, because you can access all the critical components, more or less. But, like, if you get taken out of a fight, as long as you've got the components for it, you can get yourself back up to at least semi-functional, like, enough to get back to base, or even continue fighting a little bit more, in, like, 10 minutes, if you have the right components and you have enough people. But another reason why light armor ships are so good is just the speed. Like, you can... Like, building a ship out of light armor opens a lot of possibilities up to you. You can, like, I've built this ship. This is a 7,000 block ship. And it can dodge artillery rounds. Because the best tactic, you'd think that a lot of weapons are really good. But there's this amazing tactic where you can have as many shells fired at you as you want without dying, as long as your ship isn't there to take the hit. You just go around the shell, and it's not your problem anymore. So instead of hitting you, it becomes a waste of ammo for them. So what you want to do is, a lot of upwards thrust can help you because in a couple other people's videos, this is a big thing. Because if you have a lot of upwards thrust, you can fly in atmosphere, or you fly better in atmosphere if you already have enough. But also, you want a decent amount of forwards thrust, because this is something called the spiral maneuver, as I call it. But a lot of people like to use it. And it's designed to throw off turret targeting. So what you do, you floor it forward. It's not very fast going forward, but if you hold the spacebar key and hold Q, it's fast enough that you can dodge artillery rounds. And you're moving in like this spiral pattern. So they have a harder time of actually hitting you, because you're at this crazy speed and the turrets just can't quite traverse fast enough to hit you, and also the shells are moving slow enough that like you can dodge them. Sometimes on servers it's harder to dodge because you can't see the shells coming at you, so you don't know which way to turn. But honestly, as long as you're holding spacebar and forward, you should be fine. Or if you just want to like drift by at full speed, that also works. But yeah, your ships, if you build a ship out of light armor, you have a lot of possibilities for just being where you want your ship to be, because like this ship isn't hindered by not being able to go into atmosphere. It's pretty quick. It's got good firepower. It can do what you need it to do. It's got a refinery and assembler on board, so it can work as a base if your station gets destroyed, or if you don't have one, you can use this as your base. And it's just a jack of all trades. Like, I use this thing. This is like my best ship right now, and I'm probably gonna put it on the workshop for a while until I've made something better, because I do not want to, I don't want to just give people my blueprints, because then people who specifically want to challenge me will take the blueprint, study it to every single block, and find some weakness and take it out of the fight. But yeah, just bear in mind you don't need as much armor in the rear, or in the rear part of your ship, even on the sides, because that rarely gets hit. And if it does, then you can always just modify it after your test battle to have better armor there. But let's say you lack all creativity, or you want something cheaper because you have a big faction. What I did was, I chopped this entire front section off of a workshop ship, and I made it into something a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient, into like a little gunship. And this can also carry a Corsair in the hangar. Of course, it's a tight fit, and if it clangs out, the results are going to be a nightmare for you, but you can still fit one. And this is just designed to be like a cheap throwaway weapons platform. Just get me like a dozen artillery turrets in the field now. That's what this thing is basically, because that's all it's really good for. It's quick. It can only fly in atmosphere if you use it like a rocket though, which is a flaw, but honestly I'm happy with it. Sorry, just like a cheap thing to use. So if you don't have much creativity, you can just go take something off the workshop, cut it up, put it back together again, just mess around with it, have fun with it, just poke around, see what you can make it better about it. Add armor, remove armor, it's up to you. But let's say you really, really cannot resist the heavy armor lifestyle. Let's say that you absolutely are 100% addicted to this style of building, where you just want a heavy armor ship that nothing but railguns can pen. Introducing the Marathon class Crusader. This is the Marathon 2, I think. This is almost 15,000 blocks. It has similar firepower to that ship over there. That ship is called the A1. This is just the new thing. This is like the nastiest possible thing that I can make out of heavy armor. Or is on this scale, because I could probably make something better. I just wanted to see how much fun it would be to take an old ship and make it good again. So what I've done is, well, first off, I've refitted it so that previous weak spots that existed just don't exist anymore. So that's another thing. When you're doing test battles, you want to always remember where you're taking hits from and where your worst damage came from, and just armor that up. or whatever you want to do, just make it more resilient. So I've also added more thrust so it can move better, or it can have an easier time maneuvering. It's the same interior as before. I've just done some changes. It's got more jump range. It's got more thrust. If you want to cross-reference it to the video I did on Marathon, go for it. But this thing is an absolute behemoth. It is slow, like the other version of it. Might even be slower, but it maneuvers a bit better. It still has a lot of internal thrust, but now it's a lot better at maneuvering and turning and stuff. Because I've added more gyros to it, so it's a lot more effective. So if you want to have a heavy armor ship, just have it maneuver pretty... Just put a lot of gyros on it so it can turn quick. And as long as you've got enough thrust to get to 100 meters a second quick enough, you should be fine. Just remember that you're not going to be dodging anything, and the chances of you flying in atmosphere are slim to none if you're building this big. So bear that in mind. And also, it just comes down to what other people are doing on your server. Like if you have a specific opponent, I am all for recommending that you build a ship that is designed specifically to fight that one target. Let's say that someone's designed like some crazy battleship that you can't kill by conventional means. It's totally fine if you specifically want to have a ship that's oriented around railguns that you can have with crew. Like, custom turrets kind of suck, which is why I never use them on my ships. So, like, you could, I mean, if you want to, you could have a ship designed to stay at maximum range for the railguns and just shell that guy until he's no more. Like, you could have, like, 8 custom railgun turrets plus, like, a wall of, like, 8 to 10 more fixed and just hit this guy with so many railguns that they just can't react. Which is a popular strategy, but it's really annoying and kind of a jerk move. So, it's really just a matter of preference. Like, honestly, it just comes down to you do you. See what works. Experiment. If you're getting your ass, if you're getting your ass stomped, to just ask. Like, feel free to ask. Like, what did you do to that ship to make it better? Just ask around. See what you can learn. Like, the A1 has been the result of all. Like, I have coming up on 2,000 hours for Space Engineers now, and the A1 has been the result of all those hours designing ships and testing them. This is, like, currently my best ship, and it is currently the most effective I've done, or most effective thing that I've built. It's cost effective, it's mobile, it can go where it needs to go via jump drive, it's got great range on that. It's durable despite being made of mostly light armor. And it has enough firepower to ruin someone's day if they think that they can take you on. Another thing, I haven't mentioned gyro armor yet, but there is gyro armor on the A1 in the front. Or I guess like right before the reactor room, just as a bit of extra protection. So use gyro armor, but be very, very limiting on it. Unless you're building a massive project, then you should just surround your key components with it. But I tried to build a ship out of gyro armor, and that was so awful. You should never ever do it. It is a bad idea. You only do that unless you're building a super OP ship that only uses grav drives. It is awful. So, yeah. Try and build something that you think is remotely fitting these. This is just how I build ships. I'm not saying that this is the meta. I'm saying that this is what's worked best for me. And, to be honest, if you want to take an old ship that's outdated, that's all heavy armor and designed for missile-based combat, just cover it in artillery, and just optimize it a bit for more mobility, and you should be fine. But assault cannons, don't use them. I'm not even going to talk on missile launchers, just, they never hit unless you're very lucky. So, see you next time. Maybe I'll do a fighter tutorial. Leave a comment on what game I should do next. Got a couple things in the works, but we're trying to get a schedule going, because I've got multiple people that want to do it with me. So, so leave a comment on a game that you think is somewhat obscure that you think that people should have more knowledge about, that needs a bigger player base, and I might do a video on it. So I'll see you next time.